You're listening to DraftKings Network.
Did you know that your heart attack risk can more than double when your home team is playing? We're encouraging all sports fans to learn about their personal heart risk factors so they can keep their hearts in the game. Heart disease is the #1 cause of death in the U.S. due to often invisible risk factors. To help educate you on those risks, Bayer Aspirin created the Bayer Aspirin Heart Health Risk Assessment Tool. The tool quickly assesses an individual's personal risk of developing cardiovascular disease so they can discuss their heart health risk factors with a healthcare professional as part of an ongoing health management. Learn more and assess your risk factors at checkyourheartrisks.com.
Happy Greg Cote Tuesday. We finally, after many years, have Stugotz paying a punishment. That punishment is sensual in nature. He has a towel he is whipping. He is Larry Bird. Mike Ryan, you remember this Larry Bird footage from a million years ago of him on the sidelines in his short shorts. Stugotz is rocking the short shorts. Looks sexy as hell. Thank you, Stugotz, for finally paying a penalty. Please put the towel away. You're going to knock over my coffee.
It's Larry.
I hate to do this, but as you know, I rule with an iron fist, and
Those are home whites.
Larry did that in a white uniform, so this doesn't count.
Are you winded from whipping that towel, Stugotz? You sound a bit winded. Larry Bird didn't look great in that uniform. You look worse.
Yes, I am winded.
Okay.
Just trying to get my headsets in, Dano.
Yeah, the wig is wonderful.
I think it was the hip thrust. A couple of those hip thrusts, he was a little tired.
It was a little bit too much pelvic movement for my comfort, close to my ears and stuff. I believe, though, that I can now, and it hurts me to say this, I think I can call it. The Celtics have finished the Heat. That whole thing is over now. I don't think the Heat are going to rebound. You really sound winded.
I am winded. Mike finished the Heat, not the Celtics.
Well, I think I have this right. Is this stat correct? Since Udonis Haslem disrespected Bill Russell, since Spo signed an enormous contract, and since Mike Ryan said the Heat are good, they have not won a single game, and furthermore, have gotten slaughtered in all of them. It's not like they're losing close games. They're losing at home to Memphis. They're never in that game against Phoenix, and I don't know how to explain how Bam looked last night. Since they traded for Terry Rozier, they haven't won a game either. They look truly terrible. This is the longest losing streak of Eric Spoelstra's career, immediately after signing an 8-year, $120 million contract.
Yeah. 7 games in a row. They haven't lost 6 in a row since 2021. Obviously, they did go to the Eastern Conference Finals that year, but this has been a mess. Like, their offense looks totally disjointed. It hasn't gotten better with Terry Rozier in there, despite the fact that he played okay last night, obviously. But their defense has really been the biggest issue. You see guys getting beat off the point of attack, then they're scrambling to try to cover for the guys who typically are very good wing defenders, and they're leaving guys wide open for 3. There was a stat Ron Rothstein mentioned in the postgame show last night of paint touches for the other team versus the Miami Heat. When there's paint touches going for 3-point attempts during this 7-game losing streak, the opposing team is shooting 59%, while the Heat are shooting just 37%. So they're struggling from 3. They're struggling to move the ball. The guys aren't cutting the way that we're used to. It's been pretty dreadful over the last 7 games.
On the plus side, though, they did get under the luxury tax.
On the minus side, though, 21. Minus 21 when Terry Rozier was on the court.
That's 3 straight games of under 20.
Nurkic looked pretty good, for a throw-in in the deal that Miami didn't want.
I don't know what you do with the fact that they have stunk when their 3 guys are out there. They have been really bad. Tyler Hero is explaining after the game that he's going to change his game to be catch-and-shoot guy, and that's not ideal, but they haven't been very good when he's not just catch-and-shoot guy. It's going to take a minute to adapt to Terry Rozier, but I did not have them losing at Memphis and then just getting dragged by everybody. The Heat were a favorite in last night's game because Phoenix lost at Orlando the night before. Back-to-backs, teams come in here tired. Phoenix didn't look very tired. last night.
I'm wondering if Phoenix is a team that we have to keep an eye on because
this sounds very sharp.
What do you mean?
I don't know whether it's your voice or whether it's your mic.
I cleared it out, but I'm telling you that Phoenix might be a team that we should keep an eye on, Dan. They've been playing very well.
You just sound very loud. You sound unusually loud.
It's a bold stance by Stugotz to keep an eye on the team with Kevin Durant and Bradley Beal.
Yeah,
and Devin Booker.
I'm just saying they've won 8 of 10. They're the 6th seed right now in the Western Conference, and I'm wondering if the Phoenix Suns are a team that could win an NBA championship. In fact, I'm going to say it. I said yesterday that the Clippers are a team that are going to win the NBA championship. But if they don't, the Phoenix Suns will.
Are you just learning about the Suns?
Well, they're just getting healthy
amazing.
right now.
They're
just getting healthy. They got off to a shaky start.
I particularly don't
Larry
enjoy.
Bird, I know what I'm talking.
I don't enjoy playing the Phoenix Suns because they, more than any other team, represent the Miami Heat's greatest failings over the last few years. Be it drafting Justice Winslow over Devin Booker, be it constantly missing out on Kevin Durant, be it you choose not to pursue Bradley Beal, be it that their new owner is constantly taking Mickey Arrison's lunch money. It's just a constant reminder of this franchise's failings over the last few years.
All right, all you naysayers, let me remind you about something. The Heat is the hardest working, best conditioned, most professional, unselfish, toughest, meanest, nastiest team in the NBA. Did you ever notice how Heat culture sounds a lot better when they're winning? Right now, Heat culture reminds me of when the Dolphins not only sucked, but were boring. And after every score, they would still play that song about, and we're talking Super Bowl because we're the... It seemed ridiculous then.
You should know the song better than that.
Yeah, I could sing the whole... I could sing the whole time.
Please do. Hold on, everybody get out of the way.
Dan, at the time it was boring, so he was bored with the song.
Everybody get out of the way, just so that you understand. Stugotz is saying keep an eye on the Suns. Devin Booker, before last night, was averaging 50 points a game in his last 3 games and isn't their best player. Go ahead, Greg Cote. Get us started with sing the whole song more correctly. Honor it. Respect the song, please.
Okay, I wish I had the lyrics in front of me. You're asking a lot here.
You just said you could sing the whole song.
I lied. Let me think, though. Okay. We take the ball from goal to goal like no one's ever seen. We're in the air, we're on the ground, we're always in control. And when you say Miami, you're talking Super Bowl, 'cause we're the Miami Dolphins. Miami Dolphins. Miami Dolphins #1. Yes, we're the Miami. And the Heat should start playing that song at their games right now in the middle of a 7-game losing streak. The disappointment to me is that the Heat, among all the other disappointments of this season, they have no respite at home. They're 12-11 at home. It's not, and you play a back-to-back game at home and you don't win. There's nothing going right. It's the low point of Spoelstra's career. It's got to be.
Let's put up on the screen, please, by way of greeting and hello for Greg Cote, what Angel Resto painted him as a caricature.
He lost in the finals.
He did lose in the finals,
Twice.
But what he's saying is this is the worst stretch of his career, is what he's saying. Not this is the worst he's ever felt.
They were 11-30 in the first half of one season, and they had multiple 6-game losing streaks in that respect.
Right.
Obviously, this is 7. And it's bad because the expectations are a lot higher, but low point of his career is...
I am willing to say that loss at home to Memphis is the lowest that Eric Spoelstra has felt at any time in his life. Now, let's put up the picture here of...
He just went through a divorce.
I know this. I'm aware of this.
Adding to the lowness.
That's correct. Thank you. Thank you. Making it even worse. That is correct. Here is the picture of Greg Cote, the rendering of Greg Cote. He looks particularly embalmed. He looks a bit angry. The eyebrows look just like wild shrubbery, and he looks 143 years old.
Right. Now, here's the thing about that caricature. That if I'm laying down in a casket, that's what I expect to look like. It's just it's me at age 85. My face is huge. My hair is really, really gray. The eyebrows. My wife's going to have me cremated, I'm sure. You know, I'm going to burn at about 1,800 degrees in a tube, so I'll never be in a casket. But if I were, that would be the look.
Have you guys talked about this?
We have not. It's just an assumption. It's an assumption. I mean,
Why would you assume
Why are you?
that?
Yeah.
Well, it's a family tradition.
$5.
It's a family tradition. We have an
for
urn.
coughing right into the microphone.
Guy don't want to earn. Guy wants to earn.
That's right. You should request being burned at 1440. You know what I mean?
what?
To honor your family.
It would take longer. It would take a lot longer.
You'd appreciate it
It'd
more.
be a slow
I think.
burn.
Yeah.
You won't
Gotta
feel
want to
it.
learn. Gotta want to earn. I do want to earn.
Right.
And you want to burn.
Exactly.
Hell yeah.
Thank you.
Live in an urn.
Everyone knows it's not Valentine's Day without the flowers, so whatever you do, don't be like me. Don't forget the flowers. Beat the Valentine's Day rush and order early at 1-800-Flowers.com. Right now, at 1-800-Flowers, you can get up to 40% off a beautiful, gorgeous bouquet of one-of-a-kind arrangements that are guaranteed to wow your significant other. Please do not be like me. Don't put it off. Delivery dates are limited. Get up to 40% off today at 1-800-Flowers.com/Dan. That's 1-800-Flowers.com/Dan.
Don Batard.
Do you realize that for 30 minutes, now we might not have been doing good show, but we were doing show for about 30 minutes, and then you just decided to tell the story as if we were in the eating area.
Stugotz.
So many refer to it as a kitchen.
Right.
Eating area.
Commissary.
Who calls it an eating area?
Nobody.
Nobody.
Right.
An eating area. What's the bedroom? The sleeping area? Let's hang on. I got to go to the urinating area. I'll be right back. Eating area.
This is the Don Batard Show with the Stugotz.
I feel like Angel actually did you a service looking at that side by side.
Looks better.
Yeah, he did.
Younger?
Yeah, the hair especially much fuller look, and you actually have more liver spots than Angel accounted for.
Well, I see one under my right eye there. There's a little
No, but
spot
he's
there.
saying you have, in actuality, more liver spots
I
on
do,
your
yeah.
actual face than
Yeah.
you do in the caricature.
Right, I'm a living man, a liver man.
That's right.
I see 4 of them right now.
Let's count the liver
Oh, there's
spots.
a 5th. Yeah, how about that?
Okay, yeah. There's one big one here, and then like a little slurry of them over there. That's why I've started wearing makeup. I do my own makeup now. It's sad, but you go through that. You live and you learn, right? That kind of thing. But no, Angel. I love Angel Resto. He's super talented. He's the one who did the Greg Cote Show podcast logo, which I appreciated. Although it cost me a bunch of money, it's not like he did it for free. But no, he's really good. He's really, really good, and I appreciate that caricature. I really do.
Did you think it was worth the money? Or
No, I did.
Once you saw it, you're like, oh.
Well, it's like, maybe it might have been a little north of what I would have guessed he would have charged, but he's an artist. You're paying for talent. You're paying for an Angel Resto. So worth every penny of it, truly.
What are we paying for on Tuesdays?
A Greg Cote.
Are you also
Greg Cote
winded
experience.
from watching Greg, from watching Stugotz do his towel thing?
I'm not winded at all. I mean, I've been on. I've been talking a lot, like the last minute and a half.
I think Greg's about to get a second wind, you know?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
So you didn't try to haggle at all, huh?
No, I'm not a big haggler.
Yeah.
Marvin is, but I'm not a big haggler.
Leaving money on the table.
Marvelous.
Exactly. No, I don't haggle. That's why I was bad at swap meets. Back in the swap meet era, like some guy's asking for 35 cents for an old record album. What am I going to try to talk him down to a quarter? It's more embarrassing for me to try to save a dime. But when Aunt Bonnie moved out of her house in Pembroke Pines, we had this massive yard sale.
This is not a flattering angle for Larry Bird.
The worst. Listen, retirement has not been good to me. I mean, it hasn't.
The hair, though. I mean, come on.
I can't look at myself,
green,
Dan.
the
Thank you for pointing it out.
I mean,
though.
well, but it's right there.
Yeah.
I can't avoid it.
Jesus.
It's right on the screen. The green is not slimming.
I'm wearing a large, okay? I've been saying for a year now they're not making XLs like they used to make them. I now wear a double XL. This outfit, this costume is a large. This is dreadful, man. But it's a punishment, and I got to pay it off.
Historically accurate.
Well, what happened at Bonnie's garage sale, though?
Yeah,
before
that's
we
right.
get straight
Aunt
too
Bon.
far,
Yeah.
Well, it was a massive garage sale, and I experienced firsthand people trying to talk you down from an already ridiculously low thing. Like she had three. She's a hoarder, Aunt Bonnie, and so at her garage sale, she had like 3 or 4 beer can chicken things, the little wire with the beer can that you put it in the middle of a chicken cavity or a turkey cavity. So she's asking like $1 for each of those. And people are trying to talk you down to 50 cents. I don't get it. It's $1.
A penny saves a penny earned, Greg.
It's never been used. You know, if you go to Target, it probably costs you $3.99 or whatever a typical price is. Always ends in 99 or 95, like gas, 99.99 or something. But so we had to, you go, no,
just round
it's
it up
$1.
in gas. Yeah,
exactly. Mm-hmm. Charge me $4 a gallon, not $3.95.99.
If you're at 99, will you go a little extra and just try to round it off?
Oh, that's a competition I play with myself.
Right.
Yeah.
But then it goes over and you're at 501.
And then I got to go to 505.
Right. Yeah.
I got to end on a 0
Why
or
would
a
you add
5.
$4.
Yeah. No, I never end on a ragged number. It's always a 0 or a 5.
How are you with negotiating cars?
Now that I'll negotiate because you're talking about a real savings. I once walked out of a Dodge dealer back in the days before we had kids. We're buying a Dodge Caravan.
I knew you were a Dodge man.
Well, we're buying a Dodge Caravan because kids are coming, so we needed a minivan. And we had arranged the deal, but I was still in negotiating mode. So I'm like, you got a deal if you throw in the upgrade floor mats, okay? That would have cost the dealership maybe a total of $175 or something to throw in those.
If that.
If that. He goes to see his manager. They wouldn't do it, okay? I was calling his bluff. Then he called my bluff. And much to my wife's dismay.
Over floor mats?
I got up and I walked out of that dealership. I've never been back again.
Yeah.
I'm not going to name the dealership because I don't want to send business over there.
Isn't that a great feeling? Even though you leave without something that you need in the car, just getting up and walking out and saying, this deal's not going to happen because of me. Now, you then need to figure out a new car situation and go through the whole rigmarole elsewhere. But when you get up and you have that power telling the dealer, nope, and then they come chasing you down, you have to hold strong. You're not getting a car from that dealership. If they don't throw in those floor mats, you're not getting a car there.
Exactly.
Put it on the poll, please, Juju. Have you ever stormed out of a negotiation?
Never. Not at Williamson Cadillac. Williamson is Miami.
Tony, aren't you trying to buy a car now?
Dano, I'm the person that people call when they want to buy a car. So I love the car buying experience. Like, there is something so satiating to me to sit across from that car salesman and be like, I'm not paying that. I want you to know that. This is embarrassing. I'm embarrassed that you would bring this to me and ask me to pay this.
So your friends bring you in as a negotiator?
That's right. Lewis is going to buy a car soon. I'm going to do it with him, my wife, my brother, my brother-in-law, everybody.
Because they trust you to be the stoic ass who scares the guy who negotiates for a living.
Dan, the thing is, I'm a bit of a dork when it comes to the car buying experience. So I know things that the dealer's going to try to do to try and kind of give you the how's your uncle without really telling you, right? There's a couple things, residual, the cap cost, the money factor. There's things, especially when you're negotiating a lease, that you can look in where the dealership's going to try and hide money because they want it on the back end. Hey, yo. But if you know what you're looking for, you can get it and you'd be like, hey, this right here is absolute bullshit. I'm not paying that. You need to come down.
Greg Cote wanted an explanation for, hey, how's your uncle? He was confused by that saying.
Oh, whoa. How's your uncle?
My wife prefers Stugotz.
Snug.
My wife prefers the bargain portion of the buying experience than getting whatever it is that she's actually getting. She will not buy something unless it is reduced from what she thinks it is worth. But Bud Grant, the late Bud Grant, told us how to handle all forms of haggling at when you're having some sort of sale in your house, whether it's a garage sale or anything else.
Take a walk.
That's how Bud Grant would do it anytime. We present him hypotheticals. It's for $1. Somebody tells you they're going to give you 99 cents. Bud, how do you react to that?
Take a walk.
You have to. You got to draw the line.
I miss him.
Draw a hard line.
We all do.
Car buying
bargains.
Ooh, sorry. Sorry about that, Bud. Car buying is more about leverage than anything, right? If you can pit two dealerships against one another, you'll get exactly what you want at the price that you want.
There's nothing more powerful than saying, hey, dealership up the road's offering me this, and you guys
are competing with them, right?
Right.
For my business, right?
Yeah.
And you're not going to match them. I'm just going to go over there. And they're like, whoa, wait a second. I think we can talk to the manager. The manager knows everything.
Yes.
Right? He's the person that's the brain of the operation.
They don't actually talk to the manager a lot of the time.
Of course they do. Of course they do, Billy.
No,
that's
why I know they say, hey, I'm going to go talk to the manager, and then they go, they have a coffee,
Like
they drink
my
water
guy.
from the water
That's
fountain.
fine.
They come right back and they lower it.
Here's the thing. I'm going to make him do it. I'm going to make him do it 30 times. Like, he's going to go up and talk to that manager 30 times while I'm there.
I believe that when you go to a car dealership, they love it. They go, oh, this is one of those guys.
No, they love when you go there.
One of those guys.
No, they like to dance. Oh, this is one of those guys. We get to dance now. We're going to start out at some exorbitant price, some ridiculous price.
They do.
He's going to bring it down to what we were going to offer him anyways, if not a little more than we were going to offer him.
Yeah.
And he's going to think he gets a W. Then we'll throw in some floor mats and everyone will be on their way.
No, so you don't get it, Billy.
They see you and they're like, you know
No.
what this guy needs today? He needs a car and he needs a win. And we're going to give him that win.
No.
But we're going to start so high so that his win is our win.
By the way, car prices are through the roof right now. If you're going to buy a car, they're very expensive. So 2 years ago during the pandemic, you could have gotten a car for a steal. Like I was telling me, I was giving away cars during the pandemic. Okay,
There was a
so you know.
shortage. There was a shortage of cars. It was impossible to
Of
get cars
used
2
cars,
years
yes,
ago.
new cars. Not the point. The point is, I'm going to make that guy go to the manager 30 different times. We're going to fight on the price, and at the end, he's going to say, "You got an employee discount, buddy. I don't know what to tell you."
Take a walk.
I couldn't be less like Tony in this regard. Like we're currently trying to buy a house, and we were talking with the seller and our real estate agent about possible prices on a roof because the roof needs to be redone, and they're only going to give us so much money, and our real estate agent's negotiating, and we wanted a certain number, and so our real estate agent said that he was willing to give up a certain amount on his commission to be able to reach that number. And I said to my wife, like, oh, well, you know, it's fine. We can do without that extra few grand because he's done a really good job. And she's like, you're just going to give up a few $1,000? And I was like, well, he's really nice.
Stugotz, this is true, and I don't even remember the details, but Stugotz thinks he's Tony, but is actually you, Jeremy, because he goes into the negotiations feeling like I'm going to get them down, and then next thing you know, they're offering him less than they were before, and I've got a non-compete clause because he's negotiating the deal. Like
Yeah, that's right.
It's a strange thing. My father's the same way. My father has come home trying to negotiate a lower price for a mattress and ended up paying more than what the original price was. I don't understand how it is that they get discombobulated by the salespeople. But I want to get. You look like a golden girl, by the way, Stugotz. A golden girl with stubble is what you look like.
Thank you. I can't look at myself dance.
It's fun. The wig is amazing. The wig really, the wig and you showing that much skin on the arms really brings the whole thing together.
Before the show, for some reason, Dan, he was wearing his hat on top of the wig, and we were confused as to why he was doing that. And we were saying in this room that he looks like the middle-aged, like, adult in Spanish television that plays the role of a child, like an adolescent. Like the shows where it's all middle-aged adults playing 10-year-olds is what he looked like when he had that hat on. And we don't know why he had that hat on.
I always have the hat on.
He was trying to conceal how ridiculous he looks. He was trying to make it a little more normal. I was starting to say that I believe the Celtics-Heat rivalry is now over, and Udonis Haslem says it is not. On the OGs podcast with Mike Miller, here's what he's had to say last week about if he sees Kevin Garnett and Paul Pierce in public.
My era, we used to hate the mother that we used to have to go against and the rivalries and all that. To this day, you know what I'm saying? Y'all know how I feel when we got to play the Celtics. I can't stand them.
First of all,
and I have nothing against. And I have listen.
Hold on, man.
And the crazy thing about it,
can I tell a story about it in the huddle, man?
I like Tatum and I like Brown.
I would love for you to tell me. Can I tell a story about it in the huddle, man?
What? I like Tatum. I like Brown.
Nah,
them
not
old that. AG and Paul. I don't y'all. Y'all know that.
There it go.
It's cool.
There it go.
I don't fuck y'all. Y'all know that. It's cool. I'm cool on that. The young generation, y'all can create y'all own beef and y'all can create y'all own whatever. The old already know. I see y'all in the grocery store. It's on.
Yeah, that's crazy.
And I don't care what aisle it is. It could be a 7-Eleven around the cheese dip. It's like whatever. All that flipped over.
Do you believe, put it on the poll, Juju, would Udonis Haslem fight Paul Pierce near the cheese dip in 7-Eleven? Yes or no?
Paul Pierce for sure. KG, I don't know so much, but Paul's been talking shit for a long time.
You're saying he would not fight KG?
I think there's a little bit more love between KG and OG than there is with OG and Paul Pierce.
A little bit of respect, at least, you would think.
Could you imagine turning on like ESPN or TMZ and it's just like Udonis Haslem and Kevin Garnett start fighting in the middle of a grocery store? The cause was they just didn't like each other from their playing days. Like, the idea is insane. They're both like very successful. They're business owners. Like, you can't just go and start fighting in the middle of a grocery store.
This 7-game losing streak makes you realize they really miss Udonis Haslem, huh? Invaluable in that locker room.
Mike Ryan, how do you feel presently about the state of your Miami Heat?
I had it wrong. They're not good. They are a play-in team. I said definitively, they're not a play-in team. They're a play-in team.
Well, they may
hopefully.
Not. They may not be. Yeah, things keep going this way.
Hopefully. It's just they're reaping what they sowed.
Character needs work.
Don Batard.
Teammates can't shoot from 3. Now they're gonna see a different Jimmy. Now he's just playing Nickelback in the locker room, and
Stugotz.
they'll play D and shoot 3s as they chase the Nets for the 6th seed. These 5 words in his head scream, "Are we winning games yet?"
This is the Don Batard Show with the Stugotz.
Stugotz, you know that Mike Ryan has ripped Carmelo Anthony a great deal recently. Got to a huge argument with Amin Al-Hassan about the relevance of Carmelo Anthony. Carmelo is mad because he is saying that the Nuggets gave Jokic his number in a petty move to erase Melo. And now Charles Barkley is saying of Jalen Brunson, he's making the Knicks more relevant than any time the Knicks have been since Patrick Ewing. So Charles Barkley is also erasing Carmelo Anthony. And I want to just show you a picture of Charles Barkley here in studio, Stugotz, with Luka, because I don't think that the younger generation understands when they see Charles Barkley and hear a loudmouth that led the league in rebounding. Shorter than Luka. I've stood next to Charles. He's barely bigger than me. Now, his ass is around where my shoulders are. But Charles Barkley, look up some of the stats for me, Jeremy, the rebounding stats on Charles Barkley, because Pablo Torre joins us now. Pablo Torre Finds Out is his podcast. It's streaking up the charts. It's very popular. He's doing smarter stuff than most people. But what do you think there, Pablo, when you look at the photo of Charles Barkley standing next to Luka and looking so small next to Luka?
Yeah, I think that Charles Barkley needs to get someone to make one of those like highlight reels set to like modern rap music so kids can appreciate what he was. Because I'm just on the border, Dan. I was born in 85. But I remember, like, there are videos of Charles Barkley doing things that are genuinely jaw-dropping if you only know him as the guy who struggles to pick up his leg to fake karate kick Shaq. And this is just an example of how it is that he was overcoming people who were larger at his time, let alone in comparison to Luka, who's also shockingly tall, as a side note.
He averaged 12 rebounds a game for his career.
I mean, he led the league one year with 14 and a half rebounds per game. And again, he was barely 6'5", if he was 6'5". I'm not sure. I want to read to you guys a quote, and I want you to tell me who it is that it came from. Quote, "It's always a fast break when I have the ball." This is a quote from last night, actually. "It's always a fast break when I have the ball."
Josh Richardson.
Funnier than that. I've got something funnier than that.
The other team
might know.
That's pretty funny.
Was it Ben Simmons?
It was Ben Simmons.
Oh, really? He's back?
In his first
You're
game
nuts.
back.
I mean,
In his first game back, he had 10, 11, and 8, and he announced his arrival for the Nets with, "It's always a fast break when I have the ball." It is.
but I'm not shooting.
Pablo, I know people have gotten tired of it, but I think it's one of the most fascinating stories in the sport, the mental short-circuiting of this player.
Yeah, look, I have been for a long time his foremost, I guess, surrogate on like sports talk, radio, and television, because I've always believed that Ben Simmons is mostly a flying car without a stereo. Like, he can do everything except for the thing where, like, I would like to listen to music now, and he just won't shoot or dunk or even just take shots that jeopardize his confidence. So the question for me, and I loved to see him back last night, almost getting a triple-double immediately. The question for me has always been just like, how aware is he of his shortcomings? And I think the infuriating part of Ben Simmons for so many people is that he refuses to admit that he has shortcomings. And that dynamic is so funny to me, even if it maybe is the only way you can cope with the fact that those shortcomings are obvious to literally everybody else.
He came out guns blazing last night, 5 of 5 from the field. I mean, that's a lot of shot attempts for Ben Simmons. Seriously.
That's a funny quote from him. I mean, you would think he would arrive quietly, and no, that's not the way he's arriving.
Wait, do people want him to just meekly? This is the thing I'm saying, though. Do people want him to meekly say, like, I want to just declare for everybody here that I suck and I have not played in a very long time, so please just be gentle on me as I try to humbly reinsert myself into the world of basketball? Or do you want him to be this character who actually was once upon a time, literally not so long ago, an all-NBA caliber player?
It'd be great to see Ben Simmons back with a level of confidence. He said, as soon as I checked in, I told them, you know what time it is. That's another quote from Ben Simmons last night.
I love this. I love this man. I am now being re-radicalized into why I rooted for him. Because he's trolling everybody, but also I think he just needs to say it to feel better about himself. Because he was the number 1 overall pick. Like, there's no other. He was hailed as the next LeBron, and of course he is not that. But man, that guy just needs to believe that he is still exactly the story that he tells himself to make himself feel better about himself.
Stugotz, Ariel Helwani, I believe to be one of the finest sports journalists working anywhere. He is honorable, he is fair, he is perspective rich, and he went on Pablo Torre Finds Out and gave up the stories of all of the different ways that Dana White tried to bully journalism, did successfully bully journalism out of the ESPN building. But before we get to that, Pablo, I just want to point out what the lane that Dana White is taking now versus the lane he took 10 years ago, because he's seen the lane that profits off of being a professional asshole. Look at this. This is just a couple of weeks ago. This is Dana White basically defending his middleweight champion for hate speech.
Dana, I just want to go back. You were talking about, like, you obviously give a long leash to your fighters about, what they can say when they are up there with the UFC microphone, and you are getting into territory of homophobia, transphobia. Like, is there...
I don't give anybody a leash.
Well, I'm saying you...
A leash?
I'm like...
Free speech. Going to control what people say? Going to tell people what to believe? Going to tell people... I don't tell any other human being what to say, what to think, and there's no leashes on any of them. What is your question?
I was asking that question. I'll move on, though.
Yeah, probably a good idea. That's ridiculous to say I give somebody a leash. Free speech, brother. People can say whatever they want, and they can believe whatever they want. And I don't think there's any... We had 2 gay women who fought in the co-main event. They sat on the stage with Sean Strickland. They could give a what Sean Strickland thinks, or what he says, or what his beliefs are, or what his opinions are. You know what I mean?
So that was recently, but here's Dana White 10 years ago, and the tone is different when he is, I believe it was was he talking about Matt Mitrione, some things that were said that he was not at all down with? This is 10 years ago.
I know that there was a lot of talk, free Mitrione and all this stuff with the fans, and it's freedom of speech and all this stuff. That's absolutely ridiculous. Work at any company anywhere in America and go out and say ignorant, stupid stuff publicly. Even on top of that, say it publicly in a big, place where people can go read it or hear it publicly and see what happens to you. And it's like, oh, we agree with what Mitrione said. Well, you can agree with what Mitrione said. If that was something that he really felt strongly about, and he said, I want to speak up, I want to be heard about this because I don't believe, and I don't disagree with everything that he said. So it's not that he didn't have a point. It was how he said it. The extra things that he said. And if he was standing in front of a panel, okay, and he was going up to speak on this subject, he wouldn't have said the things that he said, and he would have said it differently. There's a way to voice your opinion without sounding like a bigot. You know what I mean? And he came off sounding like a complete jackass and a bigot. And that kind of stuff isn't going to be tolerated. The other thing was, I used the F word, and we're not talking about here. And I grew up in the 80s. Used to use that word all the time. So when that happened, I'm the furthest thing. I know I might look like one. The big bald dude from the UFC probably is a homophobe. I'm the furthest thing from it.
Pablo?
Yeah, I mean, first off, that sort of musical bed underneath is what I want Barkley to get from the kids today. Like, there's a beat about to drop. I want that sort of thematic effort in proving that Barkley is actually an all-time great athlete. But about Dana White, it's very funny to me, right? Like, there's a unifying theory of Dana White that Ariel walked me through, because Ariel was the guy interviewing Matt Mitrione. He was the guy interviewing Dana White, asking about punishments. And that's the sort of thing that Dana White was doing when he wanted to sell UFC to the mainstream before 2016. And why did that matter? It's because they didn't have a deal with Disney and ESPN yet. Dana White knew exactly what the households across America were wanting from the UFC, which is to say, clean it up. We don't say that stuff here. That stuff is bigoted. It's awful. Like, respectable society won't allow that. And then 2016 happens, fill in the giant blank as to what happened in 2016. But you know what happened. Dana White spoke at the Republican National Convention. And then suddenly he's realizing, wait a minute, there's a massive pivot I can make here for the same reason I was punishing this speech before, which is money, which is profit. And so it's remarkable. Look, it's remarkable that Dana White, because of that leash back and forth, by the way, which was incredible. And Ariel does a great job on my show breaking down why it was a masterclass in basically vivisecting a journalist. Dana White, off of that, has become, I would say, the foremost champion of free speech, certainly in American sports, and it's on the path to being the foremost champion of free speech in American life, right? Dana White is saying, free speech, comma, brother. That's the only policy I have. Now, was it the case 10 years ago, 5 years ago? Not in that same way. But now, Dan, all I'm pointing out is that I don't think it's plausible to be the foremost free speech absolutist in America when the thing you're really protecting is money. And ask Ariel Helwani about how his freedom of speech was treated by Dana White as the counterpoint to what it is that Dana White really cares about when it comes to protecting his business.
We have less than a minute left, but for those who have not seen or heard the podcast, tell us the best of what Ariel told you, because I've heard some of the stories, and I don't think he's told them all publicly. It was really bad. I experienced some of them with him at ESPN. It was really bad. He has not said everything that happened there.
No. Look, the point here is very simple. It's not about canceling Dana White. It's not about moralizing. It's simply about free speech, in theory, is about not just protecting the speech that makes you money. It's about protecting the speech that makes you uncomfortable. And so Ariel Helwani not only breaks stories about, Brock Lesnar is going to come back and fight, he breaks stories about fighter pay, about treatment of the employees who are not employees or independent contractors at the UFC. And so when Ariel Helwani left ESPN, he got a text from an unknown number that he says was Dana White. And it was mocking. It was, I told you I was going to get rid of you. It's about how he got banned from covering UFC for 48 hours famously. And Dana White told him, Lorenzo Fertitta, he put a bullet in your head. It's about Ariel saying he fully believes that, and he said this on the show, that if he walked out of our studio and got hit by a bus, that Dana White would cheer. And so it's about this thing that we see now, right? Forget stick to sports, that's over. Now it's say whatever you want, as long as I could plausibly claim that I'm in favor of freedom when really I'm in favor of making money. It's a story about America and our politics now, and Dana White happens to be the center of a Venn diagram that is both very funny when you see what he used to be, but also actually ridiculous to suggest genuine when it comes to his policy and his standards.
Pablo Torre finds out all of the interesting things. He is following his curiosities to the end of the earth.
Then what?
Pablo Torre finds out is the name of the podcast.
My favorite part of that segment was Greg's lone contribution of hitting the microphone with his thermos.
Yes, mine too.
How'd that turn out?
Thanks, Greg.